Heyo, welcome back. Like we never left, except it's been 2 months.
I was gonna say, so it's been we did it in beginning of January. Yeah, here. Yeah, it's been 2 months.
It's New Comic Book Day Book Club. Talking about January with my buddy John. How's it going, John?
I got my notification from the Whitewell Comics going live.
Oh, what do you know? You should tune in.
Yeah, I'm gonna check that out later. Watch the replay.
How's it going?
I'm doing well. It's New Comic Book Day. I got my pull list is down to actually like 4 actual printed comics that I bought, so it feels good. And
per
I bought
month
some
or per week.
So still week.
Plus things you pick off the shelf.
No, I had dodged that bullet, but I did grab a couple of trades because there were 2 Black Hammer trades that came out this week, so I'm trying to keep up on that. Although I've got 3 of them to read, so
that's how I get you.
I just, but Jeff Lemire can get me anytime. That sounded wrong.
Yeah, I certainly didn't, JP, but thanks for tuning in. That map behind you, are you having your students track the COVID progression?
Well, just in case I forget which state I'm in, it's labeled for me.
Oh, good.
We're here. You're not here. You're over here,
down
in
the
flaccid dong of the United States.
Just the hanging semi-turgid wang of the United States. Yeah, so we're talking about a couple books in particular, and then we might kind of briefly touch on some other stuff if the mood strikes us as such. We're talking about Rain, as you could probably tell from the thumbnail of this. We're talking about Bolero, which is another Image book, and then an Aftershock title called Bylines in Blood, which I read and recommended to John, and he picked it up, and
now I got all 3 of them.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm assuming No Good Comics is going to jump in the chat because he said he was specifically interested in hearing what your thoughts were on Rain. So we might need to wait on that one, not lead off with that one.
And I don't know if it is a trend in independent comics right now or a trend in what we are enjoying or just coincidence, but all 3 of the books are female protagonists.
I was going to joke. I was like, do you want to start with the indie comic with a female lead with a little sci-fi twist to it? Or the one with a female lead that's an indie with a sci-fi twist to it? Or the indie female lead sci-fi, like whatever you want. We got variety.
It's all the same book, really.
Yeah, and incidentally, Rain and Bolero sharing a basic premise as well, like subtly basic premise.
Yeah, I mean, in a way.
Up until the last moments, because I don't even know that I know for sure where Rain could go at this point. Like it could be a billion different things.
So that's a great point. Why don't we start talking about Rain? Because I had that same question.
Oh, okay. Well, Justin's gonna have to catch the replay then.
Yep. Well,
it's my fault. I let off with it.
I mean, he knew it was coming up. So
you got to have that notification bell clicked.
Yeah,
got to be ready.
Subscribe and click that bell, everybody. Bong bong. So Rain is a Joe Hill story.
Yes.
That was then adapted by Craig Brewer.
David.
Sorry. Yes. David Brewer. And Zoe Thorogood, I believe, did the artwork.
And I'm not familiar with Zoe Thorogood or Chris O'Halloran, who did the colors. Sorry. Yes. So JP, I did read it. Sorry, I broke down.
Stand up for yourself.
Weak. It's true.
Do
you want to give the synopsis for this one?
Sure, I can try. It is told in the past tense, and but you follow this young woman who her girlfriend is coming to move in with her, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We were just talking before we went live about how we haven't read these books in a couple weeks, so some of it's a little hazy. So her girlfriend's coming to move in with her, and it kind of starts off by her kind of talking about some of her neighbors in the neighborhood and all this stuff. And long story short, when the girlfriend arrives, a rainstorm comes out of basically nowhere, except it doesn't rain water. It rains shards of crystals or some
needles
sort of
or
very,
something.
very sharp things that basically kills everyone in the whole neighborhood, except for this girl who manages to go into a garage that's opened and avoid the pummeling nature of. And I mean, if you can imagine, like, thinking about rain as it is, if that was all something that would stab you, be pretty effed up pretty quickly. So the girlfriend dies in her driveway, more or less. And that's how it ends, with her kind of like over the body after the rainstorm passes.
And she runs out to her, and I'm like, dude, that's a Die Hard moment right there. You're gonna get like jacked up. She gets all her feet, all through her boots, and then she like stumbles and falls on her knees, and I'm like, oh dang.
Well, I mean, love will do that to you. So yeah, it is, mostly, not mostly, but like, it's definitely, there's a lot of strong narration that kind of carries you through the story, reflecting upon the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, you're not like following the character as she's dealing with these emotions. You're following the character as she is reflecting upon these emotions.
Right. So it's Sharknado with glass. I mean,
basically. One thing that is not clear to me, and maybe I just missed it, or maybe it's supposed to be kind of vague, is that, did this happen everywhere or just there?
They didn't say,
although they do show some nearby zoo animals and a plane and stuff that have been crushed.
But it's hard to know if that's in the vicinity of where our characters are, or if it's just like all across the world. It's very uplifting.
No, it is super depressing.
Which is why we're talking about it.
And I did very much enjoy reading it, but I got to the last page and had the exact same reaction you did. And this isn't necessarily a criticism, but I have no idea where the story is going. Because the whole first issue is, the point of it is, to me, was talking about how much she loved this other woman and how tragic it was that she died.
Right.
So is it going to be like her just dealing with the aftermath emotionally? Is it going to be trying to figure out where this came from and trying to stop it from happening again? Is it something totally else, and it's going to be, finding out why it happened and if it has some other meaning? But what are your thoughts on that?
I think that's one of the things that I can't decide if it hurts or helps this book, because reading it in a trade would be a totally different experience.
Absolutely.
And
like
that
a
makes
lot of books these days.
Yeah. But that makes the single issue tricky to discuss, because depending on where it goes, this issue could become something that you're like, wow, what a great setup. Or it could be something where you're like, this is really pointless. I don't know that it feels like it connects. That's what I'm afraid of. You're grading a painting by looking at one corner in a way on this. And it feels more so on this issue than any of the others in the stack here that we're talking about.
Because it's so unclear where it's going to go.
You're basically just given the prelude or the setup of an event, and not the story at large. Much the same way, what was it, that Texas Blood was, that first issue was quite different than what the following issues were.
Yeah.
And it made it difficult to grade that single issue, as much joy as you might get out of it, as an entire piece, These books suck, Chris. Good to see you, brother.
I mean, it is horrible in theme, as in it is upsetting, but
tragic.
It's very well done. It's very well written. And
the art,
The art,
the opening sequence,
hit or miss for me.
The opening sequences are all about a love story, so you're getting to see their, in Polaroid style almost, the evolution of their relationship. And there are these wonderful moments where it's like the first times they make their connections, the looking up at the clouds moment, the picnic kind of thing. So that they do a good job of kind of setting up these things, and then meeting all the little quirky neighbors in the
kid who thinks he's a Dracula because he is allergic to the sun.
Mm-hmm. The stripper or whatever who's sunbathing.
Cranky old guy who's fixing cars or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. And then meeting her mom who's dropping her off. I think that there's lots of fun setup. And then when the rain comes, I love the panel layouts and the color work. It's just really hard to know what it all amounts to.
Yeah. And obviously you can say that about any book. Just and you have in just last month when we did our year in review, you said, well, there are certain books that are halfway through that I don't feel comfortable putting on my year's best because they might tank at the end. And so sure, I mean
a bunch of those stories that happened, I felt like for me in 2021, where I read something and I was like, boy, that Scout's Honor finale really dragged the whole thing down for me a little bit. And same with Shadow Doctor.
Yeah. JP says, here, meet all these people, and now they're dead. Enjoy. I mean, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, if you don't like sad, depressing stuff, this is not the book for you.
I was going to say, this might not be the show for you.
Yeah, right. That's kind of my brand.
No, I was going to say, look at the books we're doing tonight. It is the brand of the show.
Yeah, they're all pretty dark in a lot of ways.
Buckle up.
But having said that, that you could say that about any story or any book, to me, this one is on another level for that of this could really go boom or bust because, and I don't know because again, I have no idea where the story's going. The other two books, you never really know where a story's going, but you have an idea.
Yeah.
You can see the road, you just don't know what's ahead. This is just
almost like I don't even know the genre this is going to end up being.
Right.
It could be a full science fiction thing about the aliens that created this rain and having to stop the aliens from doing this. It could be a full sci-fi. It could be a tragic dealing with grief story like May's book, where she's just getting over it, and we don't ever learn anything about this rain again. Or there's so many ways this could go. And in that way reminded me a little bit of the Me You Love in the Dark, which when we read the first issue, my feeling was that the book could go in two very distinct directions, and I would have been happy. The difference was I would have been happy either way, which is it could have been the book where they end up happily together and she and the ghost shag, and it's living with a ghost. Or it could go the way that it went, which is this is really creepy and dark, and this monster wants to take advantage of her, and it's about emotional trauma.
But either way, she fucks the ghost.
Either way, she fucks the ghost. But yeah, either way, I think the story after issue 1 could have worked. And with Rain, it's the same way, but there's an infinite number of roads that this could go down versus the two that the Me You Love in the Dark was offering for me.
Yeah. So having said all that, do you have any final thoughts or?
I would probably, as a solo single issue, if this was the entire thing, I would probably give this an 8 out of 10. I would be willing to go that high. But barring reading future issues, it's hard to know what the series as a whole might be. So, in the end, that's probably where I'll put it. Sad, depressing is fine. You have to point. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, everyone's got their own things that they connect to. Obviously, for me, Little Bird, Layla Starr, although Layla Starr seems to be a little bit more across the board, people are recognizing that that's really great. Whereas Little Bird, I still think I'm not alone on that hill, but certainly, people are less excited about it for me than I am.
Right.
This book was like good, very well done. Personally, I wouldn't go shouting from the rooftops about it, but
are you going to get a second issue?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certainly intrigued, and it, like I said, the issue was very enjoyable on its own in the bubble of the issue, right? Like, even if this were kind of like a one shot, I would almost be okay with it because it very sad ending, but like it feels almost like a complete story. Besides the fact that you don't get an explanation about where the rain comes from,
right?
Although we don't even know if we're going to get an explanation about the rain, like that again, it might not be
I'd
where
like
the story is going at all.
I mean, you'd like to hope with a title called Rain, but like,
but maybe it's like a metaphor for something, who knows?
But so I agree. As a standalone, I still feel like it's a solid 8 out of 10, and I will probably read a second issue. I'm not sure if I'll read it digitally and just not worry about buying the second issue.
Do we know how many issues it's?
I feel like they don't often tell you in the promotional material in the book anymore. So I don't know how many issues it'll be in total.
Yeah. I also like how the official name of the book is Joe Hill's Reign.
I mean, when you got a brand like that, you gotta.
I mean, hey, when you're Joe Hill, you're Joe Hill. Yeah, I mean, I would go a little bit higher. I'd say it's probably an 8.5 for me. Like it, but it could turn into a higher grade as a total story. But it's just it's such a big question mark at the end of this issue.
Yeah, totally, absolutely agree.
All right, what would you like to talk about next?
I want let's go in a different direction because I don't necessarily want to go straight to Bolero, which has a ton in common.
Okay,
let's go with Bylines in Blood from Aftershock, and the creative team was Erica Schultz and Van Jensen, who I am not familiar with at all.
Yeah, I was drawn to this strictly by the cover. I thought the cover was
this cover or one of the others.
That cover. I thought it was super striking, like really jumped off the shelf. And I flipped through it and I said, okay, this looks pretty cool. And was pleasantly surprised. Like, a book like this, just because it has a cool cover and a cool concept doesn't mean it's going to be well written.
Right.
But I messaged you fairly early on after reading it and said, hey, did you check this out? You should. I would say you might want to track one down because I thought it was pretty cool. Did I disappoint you?
No, I was definitely entertained by this. I would say the character has a Veronica Mars. Let's get into the plot. The main character is something of a PI, and she used to work.
She's a lady dick, as they keep calling her.
Yeah, and she used to work at a newspaper with a friend of hers who gets murdered, and the primary crux of the story is her deciding whether or not and how hard to investigate her friend's death. And this is something of a futuristic world. Everybody seems to have certain technologies that we don't have anymore. So in that way, it has that Blade Runner sci-fi kind of thing where it's futuristic, but that's not the point. It's like it still feels very relatable to our world. It's just a little bit further along, maybe.
Yeah, it's like it's an old, Maltese Falcon style gumshoe story. Just happened to be set in a slightly futuristic world. It's not like crazy hard sci-fi. It's just like, okay, this is a bit in the future. Style is a little weird.
Right.
People wear masks around and stuff, and
for me, I would have called it Veronica Mars Blade Runner. Like it's basically where we're at. She's got a similar sass, an attitude to her, and this female private eye, the Lady Dick. It's just got this Blade Runner future kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
And it's got a sense of humor. Tone wise, there's definitely a sense of humor to this. And she is narrating the story, so you get her perspective on things as she kind of like takes you along the things that are going
but
well.
It's certainly not a comedy book.
No, it's not a comedy, but it's lighter in tone because of her.
And all the accountant guy who works for her is certainly like a bit of comic relief. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a story about someone who got murdered.
Yeah.
So
it's a detective story.
And like, especially when you get to the last page, it's like, okay, this is a serious book about emotion and stuff like that. So if I may just kind of clear up the timeline a little bit, she is currently a private detective.
Yeah.
She used to work at a newspaper that went under when she references a pandemic, something we are all quite familiar with. And basically she says all newspapers went out of business, and this guy who was the editor at this paper who hired her kind of wants to start his own paper and invites her to help him. And she says, no, this is not my path anymore. Somehow ends up in the private eye game. And then this guy's daughter shows up at her office and says, hey, you knew my father. He was murdered. I'm going to hire you to try to figure out what happened because the police aren't doing anything.
Exactly.
And so then she kind of starts poking around a little bit and
reminiscing a little bit about how she knew him and how it fell apart.
And then there's this symbol of this eye that keeps popping up, and she goes to his apartment to try to find some clues, and the cops who are assigned to the case show up and kind of rough her up a little bit. And then she goes to this weird kind of grotto-esque place where people who are called the truthers, who have these little robotic cameras that follow them around to record their every movement so that there's no question about what they're doing or what happened in their lives, which, you know, who knows if that is actually the case or if there could be edited or whatever. But why I said by the end of the book you find out like that it's a pretty serious, heavy topic is because it ends with her kind of falling to her knees in the middle of the rain outside saying like, I haven't given myself a moment to grieve yet. So yeah, it definitely has like a punch of emotion, especially at the end. But I thought it was very well handled. You know, when I talk about, you know, an old school kind of gumshoe noir storyline, it fits that mold very well, but in kind of a new, intriguing way that's making it its own. So I thought it was cool.
Yeah, and I will say though, it has a style and a look that is unique for sure, considering that the concept itself is so like genre specific or genre classic, almost cliched in some ways. They've clearly made the new and exciting portion of this story the setting, and by that I mean the era that it's taking place in and the look and style of all the people and places that she visits.
And even like the little kind of hints they've dropped already about kind of what might be happening and how there's some bigger strange thing going on.
Right.
It you know, piqued my interest to say like, okay, I want to see what happens next. Like I want to see what this mystery uncovers. You know, when she goes to visit the truthers, they kind of suggest that maybe the mayor had something to do with it because this guy end up starting his own paper and kind of is very critical of the mayor.
Right.
And she finds out that, you know, he was being funded by some company that they don't know what it is because he was giving the papers away for free, but he had some benefactor paying for the printing of the papers. So yeah, there's like a lot of moving pieces and a lot of kind of clues that have yet to make any sense.
Well, and I think in a typical Maltese Falcon, Chinatown sort of way, there's a huge amount of possibilities for whodunit, right?
Right.
And she's got to peel back the layers of all these sinister people and things to find the reality, which is the typical genre stuff that is going on here. I will say one of the things that irked me a ton was I feel like the pacing and the panel to panel layout sometimes was really confusing.
Yeah, especially like I agree. Sometimes like the word bubbles seemed like they weren't necessarily in the right order.
And I couldn't tell if something was in the past or the present a few times. I was like, is she playing volleyball now? Like, what is this volleyball sequence? Or, you see her hand, and then in the next frame, she's got a hammer. And I'm like,
right, where'd that hammer come from?
And I'm trying to see. And I went back and read that sequence 3 or 4 times to see, like,
that hammer comes out of nowhere.
Where is she carrying this damn thing?
Right.
Because she has her hand in her pocket, but then the next picture is up here, and the next picture's got a hammer.
Right.
And then I felt like some of the, and I don't know what to qualify that as editing. I mean, I feel like some of the panel to panel progression wasn't working for me. And so that took me out of the story a bunch of times. And that was my biggest complaint.
I agree 100% with that. There were a couple of moments that felt really, I don't want to say sloppy, but just like they missed the mark.
Mm-hmm.
There was something ill-considered about them.
Mm-hmm. And for an issue 1, you would hope that they've gone over it so many times that those kind of things get caught. You know, I don't know. And again, the art, I some of the pages I really love. There's this. I'm looking at this bit in the rain where the color work.
Yeah,
all the greens.
I really like the colors a lot.
Really, really amazing. But then there's other times where I feel like, I don't know, some of that volleyball sequence just pisses me off. I just think
it was weird for sure. I mean, I don't know if it's going to come into play later, but it's the rationale for it is that like she'd use it to take out her anger. But like up until that point, I never would have seen the character as someone who plays a team sport.
Right. And then just some of the like poses of characters, like his arm and his hand, like, like, what is going on there? And this guy's holding his crotch for no reason. I don't understand. So some of the art did distract, but then other times it looks really clean. Like this guy, when her partner, I guess, the accountant assistant guy comes in, I thought it was like, wow, what a great face. They did a great job with that. And again, I think the highlight is the dialogue writing. I think the characters speak really well. Like there's a real voice to each of them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some crisp layering to the dialogue, even if it's somewhat cliched, when you're like, why she's getting mugged right now, just so you can see that she's a badass and can get out of it. Things like that.
Oh, we have our Russian bot for the evening.
Carol, you're not Russian though. That's not a Russian name. Carol Woodstone.
I don't want to like focus on that too much, but I don't understand where they all came from and what they're accomplishing. But
yeah, that's not really a link I can click. So what's the goal here?
I'm sure it's terrible, whatever it is.
They're infecting YouTube.
Yeah, or at least the comic book community.
I don't know. I don't watch any other YouTube, so I don't know.
Yeah, right. I'm certainly not any live YouTube, so I wouldn't know if they're in other communities. But
I struggle where to grade this one. I originally gave it a 7.5 when I first read it, and I was like, it's an entertaining 7.5. It's just inconsistent for me. Like, and the stuff that I really like, I think was great, and the stuff that distracted me and frustrated me was like really frustrating me. I think maybe an 8 would be probably a better
that's where I am on
final score, but it's in that range. I'm in that range somewhere.
Yeah, it's an 8 for me. It's intriguing. It was entertaining, but yeah, it was not without its issues.
And
I feel like we're so, like you said, very correctable. It's not like these huge glaring plot holes or these like really big gaps in logical leaps or jumps or it's just like little things that you could have cleaned up a bit and just made it a little bit more cohesive,
just tighter, just tighter,
tight like a tiger.
Tighten it up a little bit. So again, another book that I think I would be interested in reading a second issue, whether digitally or in a trade or something like that. Just because the world is very interesting, and I think the main character has a fun style to her. I'm a big Veronica Mars fan, so it is a compliment when I say that it reminded me of that a little bit.
I mean, again, let's see if Aftershock tells us how many issues this. I think it was.
They're pretty consistent, 5 or 6. So I'd be shocked if it was any less than that.
That does not say either, but.
Yeah, they don't often tell you anymore.
But yeah, I mean, 5 or 6 issues in a trade for this is gonna, I think, be a pretty entertaining read. I would expect.
I forgot to mention that one of the things I really thought was cool about the issue was the ending, where they give you like infopedia on the city. They give you like articles on the mayor. They give you like a hilarious fake ad for an emotion drug. Sometimes it's good to feel blue.
And there's a billboard of that too that she sees.
It's a drug for like giving you the emotion that you want to be feeling. Then there's a police report on our main character and some issues she's had with the police. So that was a pretty fun way to use 4 pages at the end.
Yeah, definitely. It's like maps, right? It's like these little things that you're like, okay, you're considering this world much more than what we're just seeing on the page. Like you're taking into consideration things outside of what you are telling us to make. And again, like we both kind of agreed that the world reading it is one of the most intriguing things about it. So was the same. Clearly that shows that and it makes sense that they put that much thought into it.
Yeah, there's clearly something behind the decisions that are getting made. And in that way, it reminded me of the universe of Far Sector, where they have all of these. They created an entire planet and society and system for government and medical understanding of the medicines that these people are taking and all of these like complex things, just to tell a 12-issue Green Lantern story. You could see the amount of thought that went into it, and it feels the same kind of here.
I just had a moment of reflection of how tired I am today, because when you said Far Sector, I thought you were talking about Farscape for a good 10 seconds.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. And that's my fault.
I've never actually seen Farscape.
Me either.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, in Far Sector, the characters are taking a drug for emotions as well. In this, it's trying to give them the emotions. In Far Sector, it's trying to deny their emotions. They're taking the drugs. So,
yeah, I don't think.
And also, you're making a joke. So there you go.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think I would be the control group for people who are like, oh, why doesn't this work on him?
Who got drugs? Everybody got drugs. Yeah. What does he call drug dealer in this? Oh my god. His apothecarist. Yeah. her accountant assistant friend says, "Oh, well, you should see what I got from
some weed."
Yeah, I got a new blend from my apothecarist. She's like, "That's not a synonym for drug dealer." So good.
And I also like how he's like, "Oh, I did some research on him. He didn't have a link into his name." He's like, "Oh, I mean penny. I just realized he's also on the $5 bill."
So yeah, there's some good dialogue that I did enjoy as well.
Yeah.
So an 8 is probably more fair. I was pretty hard on it maybe the first time. I was just really frustrated by some of those panelings. Yeah. And I was like, and that volleyball sequence, I still don't understand if it's a flashback or not.
It's not. No, because
I don't think it is.
It's not,
but
because
it seemed like all of a sudden we were seeing her in high school.
Right.
Like in gym class.
Because that's where she meets up with her sibling, who then she goes with to the parents' house.
Which again, some of that I was like, maybe this is a really long flashback and they're just showing us a bunch of setup. I don't know.
But then he's the sibling is the one who's like, oh, here's this little toy I got. It was a video camera.
The one that like floats around.
Which leads her to the truthers
Yeah, because she sees the symbol. Yeah,
right.
That's right. Okay. Yeah,
I reread that one because it was the one I read longest ago, so that's why it's on fresh in my mind. But yeah, I mean, very entertaining. I thought definitely worth checking out in my opinion, even though an 8 seems not like a great score.
But for this show,
yeah, hey, that's like an A+. So let's see. Are we gonna go 3 for 3? Let's talk about Bolero.
I'm gonna say I like this one the most of all 3.
I agree.
Hey, look at us. And so yeah, do you want me to try to do this plot? I didn't do so well in the last one.
I mean, I think we might have to double team this one because it's a thicker square bound book, and it's kind of a lot happens in it.
So this is a book that's sort of a science fiction story about 2 women in love, and one of them dies. It's not Rain. This one does tell you a bit of the love story between the 2 ladies, and the journey at the beginning of kind of what their life was like, and they break up. The relationship does not go well, and one of them the main character sort of spirals as a result of losing this relationship. And then we jump to this sequence where it says part 1, 53 hops left, and we're like, wait, what does any of that mean?
At that point, we don't know what that means.
And the character is really stuck in her life. She was going to be a tattoo artist, but she's kind of let that all fall apart.
Well, she still is technically employed by the tattoo shop, but she's not.
He keeps telling her, like, "Hey, are you going to get
you got to get some clients in here? Like, you can't just
she's got to get her, what is it? There's some kind of like credential license thing that she's got to get, and she hasn't gotten it done yet. And her friend that was friends with her and her girlfriend is a musician and wants her to come to their performance because it's going to be a big night, and bumps into her ex. Doesn't go well. She gets completely blotto, bangs some guy in the parking lot just to like feel something again.
Yeah.
And comes back into the club and finds her friend really mad at her that she was gone for the big song, and a big emotional moment with her boyfriend.
She proposes on stage.
So our main character, who was banging away in the parking lot, really feels horrible and is kind of staggering away in a stupor, and goes to the guy that she banged in the parking lot, and he's like, I want you to meet somebody. And he takes her to this red light in an alley, and then she like dissolves away into like molecules, and then she's like naked at the edge of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking to a cat. A cat who's like explaining
a polka-dotted cat.
Yeah, and there's a lot of booty, a lot of
nudity in this.
And the cat is basically saying, we can send you back. We can send you to relive your life and do things better, do things in a different way, but it's unpredictable, and we don't know kind of how it's going to work out. And you can only do it 53 times.
Right. And you can never come back to this reality.
Yeah. Each time you do this, it's going to be some other thing. It's going to be different.
So you basically have 53 chances to find a reality that you're happy in.
Right.
And if you get to the 53rd and it sucks, you're stuck.
You're done. So then the cat like absorbs her.
Well, at first he turns into like this weird...
It's like a Christmas thing.
Demon thing.
Well, no, first he absorbs her and pulls her in. And the demon thing comes out of it. Is that what it is?
I don't know.
The cat like opens up and then
it turns into this
out, and then the demon, which is like, it looks like an Indian god with the multiple arms and a vagina in its chest.
I mean, why not?
And then it pulls her in to this weird door, and then when she wakes up, she runs to the mirror to find out what's going on, and she's a man now. She's a dude, or has dude.
Very pretty man.
A very pretty man,
but still has all the same tattoos. So
and a butt. More butts.
To me, from my initial reaction, it seems like it's alternate realities, but subtly alternate.
Mm-hmm.
Like
something is going to be different, but not everything.
Right. It's like one step away.
Right.
It's not like, oh, dinosaurs are still alive. It's more like, everything is the same in my life except I'm a guy, or everything is the same in my life except I didn't break up with my girlfriend.
Now, I was going to mention the fact that it might sound familiar to people who watch my channel because I mentioned reading a book about a month ago called The Midnight Library, which is basically the same concept, but as a novel about a young lady, Carmen style, who kills herself, wakes up in the Midnight Library where there's a librarian who looks a lot like her librarian from high school, who tells her that every book on the shelf is a different version of your life where you made different choices and you are a little different and your life is a little different. Take down a book and you'll go to that life. But at some point, you're going to run out of books. And if you don't find a book in time, you're going to move on. And that's the end of it. But if you find one you like, you can go to that life and live it. So in that way, this reminded me a ton of, I feel like I was reading the comic book version of that in some ways. So it's called The Midnight Library. But I felt like, wow, I'm already primed for Bolero because I read that book.
Yeah. I mean, unique or not, however unique or not the concept is, like, I think for me, this book was more than the sci-fi concept.
No,
like,
totally.
The reasons I enjoyed it were the storytelling and, the strangeness of the concept was secondary. Well, it's still interesting, but like it's not like, oh, this book was really cool because it had this wild concept. It's like,
well, because that wild concept came up right at the very end.
Right.
There was so much story preceding that, so much of seeing this lady's life,
and like a pretty straightforward, like indie movie style, just like slice of life breakup romance story, and then all of a sudden there's this cat god.
Yeah, it definitely like flips the script at that very end portion where you feel like you're watching another 500 Days of Summer or something,
right?
And then all of a sudden the guy that she banged in the parking lot has a connection to because he sounds like he's been jumping 53 different whatevers. And he puts her, he's like, here, take this business card or whatever, and sends her on the same journey he's on.
Is it like a multi-level marketing thing where he has to recruit people to get
pyramid scheme? Yeah. By the time that happens, they had done, I think, a really clever job of connecting me with her and her circumstance to the extent like in Layla Starr or Carmen or whatever, where I was wrapped into her life.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was happy to go along with the big twist, right? The big science fiction fantasy reveal. And then it was just like, wow, how weird and cool and different does this all look? Because art wise, this is the best art of the three, hands down.
Yeah, really.
The artwork is just phenomenal. The color work in this is just great. I love the way they use color, and it's not just because there's a ton of boobies. But I think they do a great job of giving each portion of the story its own look and color, so that whether it's a memory from the past where it's almost like rose colored when they met and what's going on, or that sort of that dark now I'm living without her kind of like winter look. And then the concert with I mean, clearly these are like digital color.
Sure. I mean, I'm pretty sure like
it's
most
really,
comics
really
are colored digitally these days because it's just so much cheaper and more, efficient. But
so, I mean, I was just really...
It can be handled well or it could be handled poorly. And they definitely...
And the like wonderful different uses of panels, whether they're like long and wide, short and 3 in a row. Like, I think they did great stuff with paneling And then, of course, when it goes psychedelic, that's when you start getting these bigger panels, and the artwork shines even more when you get the crazy cat and
it gets pretty wild, and it's really cool.
Yeah,
and like I mentioned that it's a longer square bound book. It did not ever feel like I was reading a long comic. Like, it flew by.
Yes.
And there's a lot of dialogue, so it's not like it's pages and pages of nothing happening. Like, it's chock-a-block full of story, but like it felt very, very readable.
Yeah, because I just noticed that the Rain was $3.99. Bylines in Blood was $4.99. This was the $5.99. But yeah, I do feel like you got a ton of story inside here. And again, so like before we even get, I mean, you get that's like all of that is like all the setup, and then it's just a couple of pages at the end of it gets a little wacky.
And then there's like sketches in the back, and
there's all sorts of fun
stuff.
Details. Like, I mean, there's nudity, but like previews of like what's coming up in the next issue, characters and design stuff. And then a cover gallery, which we were both talking about before we went live, of 8 different versions of that. And then, sample pages before they were colored, things like that.
And then there's like some weird backup story thing.
Yeah, there's some kind of mini comic or cartoon or something.
So, I mean, you definitely get your money's worth for that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought it was great. I didn't know anything about it before it came out, and in fact, like, I didn't even really think about it when I was buying my books, but my buddy at the shop said, like, oh, if you shouldn't miss Bolero, because he said it was really good. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot, because I wasn't buying too many books that week, and I'm glad that he did, because
we're not going to go back and talk about Rain now that you're here. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, sorry, you'll have to catch it on the replay. We really trashed it.
We're talking about Bolero right now. The Sexy Naked Lady book, if you want to call it.
I feel like we talk about a lot of Sexy Naked Lady books on this channel. Maybe next week we should do like tarot or something.
I was gonna say, is there a Sexy Naked Man book that I don't know?
I mean, hey, if there is, drop them in the comments. We'll take them under advisement. I'm an equal opportunity.
You could argue the end of Bolero might set up Sexy Naked Man book next week.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe we'll get a face full of hogs.
Yeah, some dong
hanging full brain.
I would say overall, I can't decide if this is an 8.5 or a 9 for me. I think it nearly is a 9. I did like it a ton, and I will be getting a second hard copy issue of this one.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I might even go like 9.2 for this. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was it was compelling. It was entertaining. Like you said, it looked really nice. Like, the characters are strong.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thought it was very good. And I would recommend anyone who missed it to go check it out, unless you have an aversion to nudity and sexual situations
and demon gods with like 4 arms and labia chests.
I mean,
see, I got 1 labia in there. Oh, that's 2. Sorry, darn it.
Don't say the 3rd time, or else Beetlejuice will come out.
Well, I don't think that's how that works.
No. So yeah, anything else you want to touch on that you read in January that you want to mention?
I mean, Nightwing continues to be great. They had was it at the end of December, or they had the all-in-one, and then the one they just had a couple weeks ago was another great issue of Nightwing. So that's been fantastic. Righteous Thirst for Vengeance,
so good,
dude.
It's so good.
Issue 4 went 3-2, but
I haven't read 4 yet. But
oh my gosh,
yeah,
it was this like slow. Well, I mean, it may be one of the best paced comics I've ever read.
Very, very intentionally paced.
Yeah. And when the violence comes, it's like you get bum rushed.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so in your face.
It's great. It's one of my favorite books right now.
It's gonna be one of the best of the year. If it ends even half as good as it's been going along, that's gonna be one to watch. Inferno was great. I thought that was a really good end to Hickman's run. Was that? Yeah, that was January 7th. The third issue of Nita Hawes' Nightmare blog, which the fourth issue just dropped today. But the third one was the best issue of that series yet. Really, really great. And I've just been loving all that stuff. And then Not All Robots ended. I thought that was a great ending, although I was a little disappointed that they set up like a whole other arc. And I was like, God damn it, I just wanted you to wrap it. Finish it. So that's another great
one. I did pick up that Zodarsky Batman origin storybook.
Night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good, but like, why? Do we really need another year like origin Batman story? To me, it didn't really like.
Did they do the pearls?
Yeah, they brought up the pearls. God damn it. The one thing I will say that I really liked about it is that they made Bruce like very petulant even as an adult.
Spoiled rich white kid.
Yeah, and I thought that was kind of a nice, like, because he is like he's Batman's a piece of shit. Like I love him. He's one of my favorite superheroes, but like, let's be real. Like, he's a real D-bag. And I think Zodarsky kind of like steered into that skid a little bit, which was satisfying. But I mean, yeah, it was good. I don't care. I'm not going to keep reading it. Daredevil, Woman Without Fear, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
John and I talked about this earlier because I thought it was a new ongoing.
Me too.
Turns out it's only 3 issues.
Yep. And the second issue came out today.
Right. And then it's leading back into another new Daredevil 1 that appears to have Matt Murdock back in it.
Yes.
Which will be another ongoing by the same creative team that just finished the last one.
Also true. Yeah.
So I might be more angry about this because I fell for it, but what a crappy thing Marvel did there.
Marvel.
It's not like Daredevil ended and then they did this Elektra story. Elektra was already Daredevil in Daredevil.
Right.
And then they're like, hey, I know how we can make money by releasing 2 new Daredevil 1s within 4 months.
Right.
Instead of just having a 3-issue arc of this story in Daredevil.
Right.
And then have the next arc be whatever this number 1's. Like, it is a plague on
both your houses.
It is such a shady way of doing business, in my opinion. Like,
there were a ton of better choices.
It's just like books went on for 500-600 issues before they decided, hey, we can make a new number 1 and start reeling in new fans. But
they put the legacy numbering on there sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
It's so stupid.
And like, it's also frustrating for me as someone who works in the comic book collecting industry, where there's now like 8 to 12 volumes of some Marvel titles, and I'm like, which one is this? I don't know anymore.
when somebody's like, oh my gosh, that my favorite run of Daredevil. I'm like, which volume?
Volume 7.
Volume 7. No, not 6. 7. That's the one.
Is that the Mark Waid one? Yeah, but it's the second Mark Waid run.
After the Bendis one, and the Brubaker one, and they all have their number 1s. I agree. It was frustrating, and I don't think at any point the Woman Without Fear, was presented as a Devil's Reign tie-in either. It was like, it seemed like it was just going to be a launch of an Elektra as Daredevil comic,
which I was here for.
Yeah,
it sounds interesting
because they had been setting it up as her origin And then it was like, now here she goes.
Even if it was the sort of thing where they had 2 Daredevil titles, one with Matt Murdock and one with her, like there's enough story to go around. Because I mean, clearly fans have responded to this Daredevil Elektra hybrid character.
Right.
So there's interest, it seems.
It was irksome.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to read it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, duh. I mean, Chip Zodarsky writing Daredevil and Marco Cicchetto.
I wanted to share, I think it was in December, though. The 3-issue Lemire and Nguyen, Robin, and Batman was pretty solid, too.
Yeah, I have been picking it up. I just didn't read it yet.
Because that was just a 3-issue and then done mini. And I thought it was a fun way to play on Killer Croc and Dick Grayson having similar roots.
Yeah.
Which nobody had ever explored, as far as I know.
Mm.
Which seems so like what a logical companion piece, to their histories.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the moral of the story tonight is that there are still good books coming out. We just got to weed through some crap to find them sometimes.
And a lot of times they have an indie publisher, a female lead, and a little bit of science fiction thrown in.
And maybe a little bit of boob, too.
Some boobies.
And hey, we almost made it an hour without bringing up Tosin Aduye.
But I can't even pronounce his last name, so I didn't even do it in my video.
What a crock of baloney that is.
But I got my 1 in 25. I only paid $900 for it.
Well, it's clearly going to be worth $13,000 in a couple of years, so hold on to it.
You know exactly where I spent my $900.
Video coming soon. Keep an eye on John's channel for a buck wild reveal.
So good. Oh my god.
So yeah, I'm not going to go into it. Everyone already knows what's going on with it. It's just stupid. If you don't know what's going on,
tune into my TikTok if you need more information.
Yeah. You should be following John on TikTok anyway, because
I just broke 1,000 followers on TikTok.
Oh, look at you!
Hey, I'm blowing up, man.
You're a regular influencer.
1,000 on TikTok. I passed 1,600 on YouTube, and I think something on Instagram. I don't remember. 3,600.
You got crazy followers on Instagram.
I'm trying to keep ahead of Perry. He used to crush me on Instagram, and now I'm bragging to him every time I hit a new marker.
But I mean, you are incredibly consistent about posting. So
I like Instagram. Like I Instagram feels like play for me.
Yeah.
So it feels like it's never work. It's just like where I go to have fun.
Right. And it's not really social media to me because I just use it for comic books.
Yeah. Which is 99% of what I do as well, I think. Yeah, comic related.
99% of my life.
And posting radical new theories about Star Wars. I'm just going to say, I broke the Star Wars system, the themes and the deeper meanings behind Star Wars. It's all done.
Oh yeah. It's not just about how Anakin hates sand.
No, not just about that. I mean, it's mostly about that.
It's got to be in there. All right. You got anything you want to plug coming up?
Let's see. I got some shows on Saturday, actually. Let's see. The morning show with my girls, and then in the middle of the day, so like 1 o'clock my time, 4 your time, I'm on No Good Comics channel. We're talking about Ultimate Spider-Man. Charlie and Kate are going to join us, talk about the first volume of Ultimate Spider-Man by Bendis and Bagley.
Nice.
And then that evening, or that I guess it would be 10 o'clock your time, so 7 my time, I'm going to be on Comic Chop News, Dan's channel, because he's interviewing Rodney Barnes of Philadelphia and Nita Hawes.
Oh, very cool.
So we're going to be tearing it up with him. I've yet to actually speak in person to Rodney before, but he's an amazing interview because he just he'll say anything. He is just going to cut loose on any topic, and he's incredibly brilliant guy. And so he's an incredibly brilliant guy. And so I'm looking forward to just getting into, is Thomas Jefferson, is this your vision of Thomas Jefferson? How do you research all these amazing like historical figures and then make them vampires? Like, I love it. I need more of this in my life. So yeah, that'll be a whole lot of fun on Saturday
night. At some point, I'm doing something with Chad for Comic Core. We've been trying to coordinate it. The last 2 Saturdays have not happened. So maybe sometime next couple weeks. And on Sunday nights, we're doing D&D on JP's channel, where I play a fighter named Gargle D's Nuts.
And I play a woman.
Yeah, naturally. We're playing the Salt Marsh campaign, and so there's gonna be some boats. Right now we're trying to solve a murder, kind of. Just started. Mm-hmm. We're level 2. We're almost dying already. It's great fun. So tune in.
Took pity on us and let us level up so that somebody could become a healer.
Yeah. I've got a surfer dude accent. It's amazing. It's wild times. So Sunday nights, JP's channel. Tune in. Otherwise, that's all we got for you, I think, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for stopping by. Keep reading comics and never turn your back on the ocean. Goodbye.